Hello and welcome to the Choralosophy Podcast. This is episode 168, I Need This Choir, with Nathan Connell and the Glacier High School Concert Choir. I'm excited to bring back the Student Perspectives category on the podcast this week. It's been a long time since I've done one of these. This time I'm with the Glacier High School Concert Choir. Recently, Beth and I traveled from Kansas City almost all the way to literal Canada, to Kalispell, Montana, to visit Nathan Connell in his concert choir fall retreat. How can teachers make their space safe for singing? What do our groups mean to these kids? Is it possible that we don't always truly know the impact we have and the impact our groups have on the lives of students? I believe that at times kids can be very talkative, of course, but also at times they will wait to be invited to tell how they really feel about something. So, in this episode, I invited them. For close to 24 hours solid, I was working on group rehearsal techniques and literacy concepts, while Beth was giving small group vocal instruction. So we were getting to know the kids over a course of a small amount of time. We also spent time interpreting music and poetry, group building, and of course philosophizing about choral music. This portion you're about to hear was recorded to give you a sense of the way that young people can process these types of important and very mature questions about what it is that they're doing in their choral music pursuits. Of course, if you would like to have Choralosophy come to your classroom, there's a link in the show notes, or you can just go to my website and look up Clinician Request. This was a lot of fun, and I hope to do more of these in the future. If you're interested in seeing a little bit of the work that we did with the students in their rehearsals, you can head over to my TikTok, which I'm trying to grow and expand the reach of that account over there by doing quite a bit more rehearsal clips. So go over there and enjoy some of the behind the scenes. Just search Choralosophy Podcast on TikTok. In the meantime, enjoy a conversation between myself and Beth and Nathan Connell and the Glacier High School Concert Choir. The Choralosophy Podcast continues to be free, and I'm working hard every week to provide this free content, but some of you, many of you, have decided, hey, I want to chip in financially to help make sure that the expenses of this show are covered, and just to say thank you to Chris for doing all of this stuff. If that's you, you can go to patreon.com/Choralosophy and sign up for as little as $3 a month. There are, of course, various levels that you can join, and at the producer or above level, we have Brian Long, Chandler Smith, Venture Studios, John Warner, Jonah Clixbull, Ulrika Igrain Munoz Alarcon, Angie Schilling, David Kowalczyk, James Mock, Jared Hendricks, Kyle Peterson, Max Jackson, Michael Herron, Nathan Hines, Ryan Main, and Stephen Kathy Kikachik. Head to patreon.com/Choralosophy and join the crowd. Okay, where's the big man? Where's Mr. Connell? Oh, there you are. So can you sit right here? Okay.
Why do I have to sit on the ground?
As we've learned kind of this weekend and some of the things that we've been doing in our group work is that at least I personally feel like choir is like an incredibly valuable and important civic art form, community building art form. It's not only that, but it's also like a really cool musical expression. It's very unique. The type of music you can sing in a choir is almost infinite. The different types of music that you can sing. And so this little podcast idea, this little project, is something that I've done on my show before, and I call it a student perspective series that I have on the podcast, but I haven't done one in a long time. And one of the reasons that I did them in the past is because of COVID, because a lot of choirs couldn't do anything other than do stuff that was online. And so since a lot of the kids back then were really missing choir, they were not allowed to do choir in many parts of the country, we would do these Zoom in podcasts. Basically I would Zoom into people, into their choir classrooms, jump into their Zoom meet and record a conversation about why we wish that we so bad. No, you're fine. You're good. Why we so badly wish that we could be back to choir. And so one of the lessons that I learned from that time as being a teacher during the pandemic, when I'm looking at teenagers who are for the first time probably in their lives really missing something that they had taken for granted prior to that. It's like they'd been going to choir and they'd been singing and having fun with all their friends and doing all the things, and all of a sudden they were told they could not. Now I know in Kalispell, you guys didn't really have very much of that because you got to come back to school and relatively quickly and do that. I can tell you my kids did not. We spent most of our 2020-21 school year either online or only allowed to bring half of the choir into the room at the same time. spaced out at 6 feet, or allowed to sing outside. We were very restricted. So we really missed it. And so what I'm interested in hearing from you guys and just allowing you to have some free reign to share some of the things that you love about choir. If you are willing to speak, I would just ask that you come and just stand right here, because this is running sound. Okay, it's going to pick up a slightly clearer version of what the students are doing. So, Mr. Connell, though, first, I would actually like you guys to tell Mr. Connell what this class means to you and what he means to you as a teacher. Why do you guys keep coming back to his class? Okay, will you come down? Yep, just go stand in front of the stand over there.
Well, Mr. Connell's kind of like the cool teacher, you know what I mean? But like, there's like some teachers who can like pretend to like who can be cool and kind of like relate with students. But I feel like Mr. Connell does that on a deeper level, and he actually attempts to like make connections with all the students, but as well as like kind of set boundaries as like, I'm still your teacher, like we're not just friends. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of helps us kind of follow him and respect him and kind of respect the format of his class.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Really good.
It's awesome. Yeah. Anybody else like to share? Go ahead.
Mr. Connell was here at the school. He saw the choir program and he was in it, and he said, I can make that better. And he devoted his life and his career to this class and these people to make it better. And like, he really does care about all of us. Like, he's a teacher that really does care. Every teacher will tell you that they care, but he actually does. And we can see that from this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, this is his time. This is his life.
Oh, absolutely. Love it.
So there's a super common theme with Connell that he like cares and he shows that he cares. And I just had like a really good example. Like, I was going through a really tough time, and like I was like, Connell, I need you to give me some wisdom. Like, you're the wisest person I know. I know I can always rely on you, and you're not going to tell me anything like super awful. And so I was like, so we had a good conversation, and he like, it really helped change my perspective on my situation. And I just think like he really does care so much, and he'll take time out of his day to go and talk to you one-on-one when you're having issues.
Awesome.
So thanks,
Awesome.
Connell.
Go ahead.
Where do I start with Nathan Connell? You know, we've been through thick and thin together, like this. You know, I've been there since freshman year. You know, I didn't know who he was. Actually, he came to my school in 8th grade. I just thought it was really cool. Decided to join choir again. Honestly, this class has been like a rock. It's been like something I always come back to. I really enjoy choir. Really enjoy being part of everything, and college just makes it 10 times better.
That's awesome.
So that's all I got to
Very
say.
cool.
Okay. Mr. Connell is actually like a huge reason that I am like where I am today mentally, and so is choir, and he's like pretty much one of the biggest reasons I joined choir, because originally I joined the after-school choir called Gust, and I just did it. I was like, I kind of like singing, and it's pretty fun, and like helps me out. And then at like near the end of last year, and I was going through something really tough. And then my friends, who I have a lot of friends in this choir, and they're like, you should go talk to Mr. Connell. I was like, he doesn't know who I am. I'm just in Gus, like the after-school choir random thing. And eventually I went and talked to this teacher that I didn't really know that well. And he took time out of his day. He took me into one of the practice rooms, and we talked for about an hour, and he had stuff to do that day. And I would argue that day like might be a big reason why like I'm still here today. Like, it really saved me. And so I was like, I gotta join choir, like normal choir. And I was so nervous. I was like, I'm just gonna be in bass choir. And he was like, try out for concert choir. And I was like, fine, I'll try out for concert choir. And I made it in. And then he was like, try out for echoes choir. And I was like, whoa, Mr. Connell, calm down. And he was like, try out for echoes. And I was like, might as well. And he put me in it. And then when I made All-State on Remind, he DM'd me and he was like, Ulrich, guess what? And I was like, what? And then he just texts, all caps, you made All-State. And I was like, no way! And so I'm just really excited. He's definitely my favorite teacher. And yeah, and big reason why I'm still present today.
That's
So,
awesome.
thank you, Mr.
Very cool. So Beth, you're over there crying again.
No, I'm not. I'm just a softie
Are you doing
today.
mom things over
Yes.
there? Is that,
Yeah.
what affected you?
I know you guys don't know me, but you've already seen me cry twice, so I'm sorry. Hearing you say that part of the reason that you're still here is because of your teacher and the impact your teacher had on you. But you guys have to realize, too, that the reason that your teachers still do what they do is because of you guys. Mm-hmm. Right? That's why we find joy in what we do. It's because we see it in you. Right? That's the beauty about this art. It's reciprocal, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that touched me a lot to hear that and to hear you say that to your teacher and to see his reaction, And I'm a mom and yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes.
And I have to say too, one
go
more
ahead.
thing, just as an outsider watching your group, I would want to be a part of this choir. I see everybody supporting one another, and it just seems very genuine and kind, and there's no diva attitude. It's just everybody really supporting one another, and it's really a beautiful environment, and you guys should really cherish that. That's a testament to your teacher for creating that, but it's also a testament to you guys for maintaining that. So.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think that sometimes kids your age, it's hard for you to realize and to think about things from the adult perspective, of course, for obvious reasons, because you've never been adults. But one thing you have to remember is that we have also been teenagers, right? So we can think from your perspective, are there challenges in your generation that were not present when we were? Yeah, of course. Especially for Beth and I, because of the obvious age difference that was pointed out earlier. So yes, of course, there are generational things that change from time to time, different challenges for different generations, but we know what it's like to be a teenager. And that's hard for you to see, but like Beth just pointed out, sometimes it's hard for teenagers to see that we get as much support and love and joy from you as you get from a supportive teacher. It goes both ways. It goes both ways. I can say that for myself as a teacher, when I have a student come up to me and they are sensitive to the fact that Mr. Muntz does not look like he's in his normal happy mood today, and they say, Mr. Muntz, are you okay? That means a lot. Because as teachers, we're always the one who are supposed to be doing that for you, but then when a kid does that for me, I'm like, wow, like this child is becoming an adult. Because that's essentially what adults have to do. They have to worry about not just themselves, but others around them to make sure they're okay. It's just an awesome, awesome thing. So, Mr. Connell, what does it feel like to have your kids come up and talk about that stuff to you?
It means a lot. Yeah, sorry. This is year 5, like we've talked about. So I'm still new at this, and I think I relate to the part where you guys feel like, I don't know if I can do this sometimes. Because I have those feelings too. Like, I have those feelings as an adult, which is hard. Like, and especially for me, like, I've had this conversation with some of my other classes. Like, this has been my dream since I was in, like, elementary school. So to get to this point in your life and then have those same fears is really hard. But it means a lot to hear from you guys that, like, it means something that you're here, and that this class means something to you, and hopefully that my relationship with you means something to you. So I just really appreciate that. So thank you guys. You filled my cup. Yeah.
So I wonder, Mr. Connell.
Yeah.
You said just year 5, and that this has been your dream. Doing something like this has been your dream for as long as you can remember.
Yep.
What is it that is your dream specifically? And I want you to tell your kids what the perfectly functioning dream choir program at Glacier High School would look like, and how is it that we're playing into that? How are we building that right now?
I think that, like the letter I sent this summer that you guys, like, hopefully you read, didn't go straight into the trash. that it's kind of twofold. Like, one is that we are a hardworking group that strives for excellence, but we're also a group that is there for each other. And that, like we've talked about, like, this is a real family, not something that we come in and we're just like, oh, we're kind of nice to each other for 50 minutes a day, but like that we can be a class where we have discussions about like hard things in our life and are real with each other. And then we take all of that and we bundle it into like a performance at the end, and we get to go share that with our community and our people. And they get to see that this is something that, like, they get to see your story. They get to see you share that on stage, that this means something to you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, that's good. So this weekend, you've been had your brows beat by me in group rehearsals, and we've been doing stuff that is outside of your comfort zone. We've been doing stuff that kind of pushes you in a way that you aren't always pushed. And I feel like sometimes over the course of the last couple of days, the last day, there has been like a little bit, and this is totally normal, by the way, but a little bit of, I'll ask you to do something, and then you'll check over to see with Mr. Connell to see if it's okay. Have you felt that? Yeah, that's totally normal. But what I'd like to hear from you guys about, and this would be like back up at the stand here if anybody's willing to walk down, is what makes you want to check in with Mr. Connell when we're having a choir rehearsal? Like, so in what ways does Mr. Connell make your singing experience feel safe? We talked about the ways that Mr. Connell creates like where you feel like he cares about you, and that's good. But how does he make your singing experience feel safe when you're in this class?
I would say that the reason Mr. Connell makes it feel safer is he exaggerates and makes it funny, which just I think takes the stress off of me. I'm not just worried about trying to get everything correctly because I know I have it, but now I get to see Mr. Connell just mess around up there.
So his willingness to be goofy makes it feel like this is a safe place to just be yourself.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, come on.
I think that Mr. Connell is really good at like keeping the mood and like light, and like we'll be working, but we'll also be having a really good time, and it'll be like funny, and like it's just a good mix of both. And I think that keeps the area like the dynamic like safe, and like you feel like you can like be yourself, and you don't feel like you're gonna be judged or like you're gonna be So I think that's really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, good. So, if your school or church are in the market for staging products like risers, shelves, podiums, movable platforms, all of the things that you need to set your choir up for success, I would like to strongly urge you to check out StageRight. StageRight's products are sturdy, they're durable, they're easy to use. I have personal experience with the acoustical shelves and some of the platforms that they have at StageRight, and I can tell you, compared to some of the more expensive competitors, they are a really great option to fit inside of a tight school budget, but also to give you the durability and usability that you need. So check out StageRight at stageright.com. I'm going to bring this back to Beth over here, and because this is going to be one I really feel like I have faith that you're not going to cry.
Okay, cool.
On this question.
I'll try.
What do you remember about high school choir? What sticks out at you still to this day at your not very old age?
So fun fact. Oh, you're gonna make me cry. Like,
I thought this was like an easy, no crying question.
No. It's,
okay.
So my high school choir director lives in Missoula and teaches elementary choir now. And I actually missed being able to see her this weekend, but she had a huge impact on me. She made me feel seen. She made me feel valued. She pulled me into her office one day and she played a recording of an operatic aria and said, "You could sing this someday." And that was like, really? You know, and it planted seeds in me of inspiration. I didn't know what being a vocal performance major meant. I didn't know what that looked like. But just having her have that faith in me and plant those seeds gave me confidence and opened my mind up to the possibility of it. And that's really what stands out. I mean, I learned so much from her in so many ways musically, but I think she just made me feel seen and valued as a musician?
How about you, Mr. Connell?
I tell the story a lot. To me, high school choir was so much about like the relationships that I formed, and I see that thread run true for music across my whole life. But like Skylar, who I met in high school choir, was one of my groomsmen in my wedding. Like, and that he's not my only friend from high school choir. That it's like we had this thing that we did together, and we had a special relationship that was formed in this context, and then we get to cherish that for the rest of our life. And then the great thing is, like, it hasn't stopped. Like, there are awesome people that I've met throughout my life because of music that I never would have met, that I never would have seen, different places that I've been to. And so it's been a lot about like the connections and the opportunities that it like opened up for me that I really look back on like so fondly.
Yeah. I have a memory too that I'll share. I shared earlier a little bit about how some of you probably were out of the room, but when my mother passed away, choir was my life jacket, my life vest. But there was more to it than that. It was also, I learned a lot of really important life lessons that were not music when I was in choir. Of course, I learned a lot about music too, and we want to learn about music, and we want to learn about how our voices work and how to put together a piece of music we've never seen before and how to sight read and all those things. We want to learn all those things. But there's non-music things that we also want to learn when we're in choir. And so I'll share one of them. My best friend was a girl named Kelly. She was in choir, I was in choir. In our school, we have, I think similar to you guys, we had like beginning level treble voices and beginning level tenor bass voices. And then we have, kind of like you guys have echoes, we had our chamber choir back when I was in high school as well. And of course, as every high school choir program experiences, there are a lot more girls than guys. Which meant that when we came up to our junior year, auditions for the top group, for the chamber choir group, I was zero amount stressed. I was literally zero amount stressed because I knew very well that I was the best, maybe one or two tenors in the school, and I was going to make the choir, and I just wasn't stressed about it. I wasn't being on purpose cocky about that. She and I were just talking about auditions coming up, and I was acting as if it was no big deal because I knew I was going to make it. Are you guys with me so far on how that scenario might play out? The whole time I'm talking about this, she is fuming mad, because she then, like just in her way of shutting me down, she's a very loud person, and she just went off on me, just talking about how I've been taking voice lessons for my whole time in high school, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to make it. There's like 12 sopranos trying out for these 7 spots that are in this group, and I'm up awake at night, and I'm like losing sleep, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to make it, and this group means so much to me, and I have no idea if I'm going to make this group. And to hear you talk about how you're just not stressed about it at all, like I'm glad for you, but that really pisses me off. Like she was really, really upset about it. And I then turned around, as it's kind of like I shared before about like being maturing and being an adult means starting to think about how your actions and words affect other people. And then it forced me in that moment to think from her perspective, oh, wow, yes, I was being very insensitive in how cavalier I was talking about this. Like, it's just a thing, it's in the bag, it's no big deal. Like, yeah, I'm sure I'll sing whatever, at that audition, it's no big deal. And I was acting as if, even though that group did mean a lot to me too, I was not thinking about it from her perspective in that conversation. And I probably would not have learned that lesson at junior and high school without a conversation that stemmed from my choir class. Just how to interact with humans, how to interact with other people in a way that makes them feel like they're just as important as a part of the team as I am in my tenor-ness or whatever it is. And so I think the reason I share that story is just because with a choir class, it forces us to be vulnerable with each other in ways that a lot of our other activities don't. Okay, I was a big sports kid. I played baseball. I played football. I loved those activities too, but those activities didn't force me into those same types of vulnerable situations where I could really try to explore who I was as a person in the same way. Because we get to do that through our Get to Know You activities, but we also get to do it through the exploration of poetry, the exploration of just some of the greatest minds that have ever thought about stuff and then wrote that stuff down, we get to sing those words in choir. And that's a pretty special thing. So my next question for you guys, and for you to come down again if you're willing, is let's go back to that pandemic scenario. God forbid, knock on wood, we have to close down school again next week. No more choir. What would you be the most concerned about having had ripped away from your life right now? Feel free to think about that if you're willing to share. If somebody told you that there could be no choir starting next week, go ahead. Oh, these are deep questions. That's what I do on Choralosophy.
I would feel really disappointed because of all the progress that we made on the music today and the past couple of days. And
So
we wouldn't be able to share that with the audience.
Yeah, so that unrealized potential. Yes, ooh, that's good. Good. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I think a major thing for me, I feel like if I found out there was going to be no choir next week, my mental health, I think, would drastically decrease because I deal with a lot, and my way of like processing that, I guess, is through music, and being in this class, it really helps me. So not having it anymore would really affect me.
Yeah, so maybe this class is kind of a life jacket for you too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I feel like I don't really do choir to like sing, but more like sing with other people. So it would take that aspect of like singing with the big group away from it. So it wouldn't be quite as fun.
So in other words, it's not the act of singing by itself that is what brings you here. It's the singing with other people. Take that part away, and the singing means less to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not everybody's trying to be a soloist, and that's okay. That's okay. Good. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I definitely would feel like my whole life was ripped away from me. And I feel like I would realize that after I was given the news, because I feel like I can say this, but until it actually happens, I would realize that like this has been my favorite part of high school. Even if other things have been just as good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know. For me, it wouldn't just be losing the time I have with like the people I already know and the relationships I already have, but taking away the potential to form new ones or strengthen already existing ones. Like, I just want to get to know more people here and care for more people in general.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. Those are snaps. I want to say more about that. So it's Tregan, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you stay right here for a second. So would you say that, because if I remember correctly, aren't you on the younger end of the...
Yes.
So are you a sophomore?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my concert choir has also a few sophomore guys sprinkled in for balance, right? Because ultimately my sophomore guys are not really ready for concert choir, but we need them so that we have enough low notes. You guys know the drill. That's high school choir all over the country. That's not just our school or your school. But one of the things that I really am careful about with my sophomore guys is that I know that they're coming in with a bunch of kids that are older, more experienced, and also not of their class, which means that they're going to feel a little bit isolated. They're also going to sometimes feel like they're dumb because everybody else can do stuff at a certain speed, and then they're like, this is super fast for me, right? And so what you said is really, I think, profound, because one of the reasons you might want to be in a group like this is because, hey, I'm in high school and I would like to have more friends and I'd like to know more people, and choir is a great way to accomplish that. You feel like, is that a fair summary of?
Yeah, that would be a very fair explanation of how I feel.
Yeah. And so you're thinking then, if I lost choir tomorrow, I would no longer get to explore the social network of the school in the way that would make me feel like I really belong here.
Yeah. Yeah. I would lose the choir how it is in this snapshot of time. These seniors would be gone and I'd never get to know them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And time's the one thing we can't get back. Ever. Right. Good. Snaps for Tregan. Yeah, that's great. Go ahead.
One thing I really love most about music is the harmonies. It's always kind of been a thing that I pay attention to. My family does a lot of music. One of the best things about choir is coming in and finally getting to put all the harmonies together. And then I look around and I look at other people and we make eye contact and I'm like, that was cool. So not being able to share what I hear and what I enjoy, it wouldn't make it worth it.
Oh my goodness, yes. Absolutely. Yeah, that's very good. We had a lot of kids quit during the pandemic for that reason. Yeah, good. Go ahead.
Personally, choir is like a good break for school. I feel like we're able to connect differently than our math or English classes, just because it's more artistic and you have more creative freedom when you're learning and stuff. So having to do our classes separated, but then losing that break in learning would be hard, I think.
Yeah. Now stay right there because I have more questions for you too.
Okay.
So when you say break, you don't mean choir's not challenging.
No, not at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I think everybody knew that, but I still wanted to say that out loud because a lot of kids feel that way. Choir is like their break in the day, but then we don't want to give the impression that break means, oh, it's like recess. It's not like recess. But it's hard in a different way than your other classes, right? So it provides a different type of challenge for you. And so if you're gonna think about you mentioned math class, different connections in math class, right? Do you have a math retreat next weekend?
No.
Why?
Because it's there's one answer. You don't need a group of people to do your thing.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Yes, Emma. So it's we don't have a math retreat because math's not a group activity. If you answer something wrong in your math class, it affects your grade and only your grade, right? But there is a certain team aspect of it that's really important. Good point. Nice job. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
I think I don't actually know what it is, but when my sister was in high school and I was still in middle school, I had to go to a choir concert and I was like, oh, this is bummy, because I was just trying to play Fortnite. And so I get in there with my mom and we're 30 minutes early and we start listening and it's the basses and the trebles or it's whatever, mezzo, it's whatever, and then we get to concert choir and they sang Ukutula. And I don't know what happened, but chills or something like that. But I just it was an awesome feeling. And then I didn't do choir throughout the rest of middle school, and it all I was thought back to that feeling when I listened to music. I was I kind of want to feel that again. And there's only two things that made me feel that way, and it's that, and it's when the Broncos won the Super Bowl. and unfortunately, the Broncos ain't doing that anytime soon. So I really wanted to join choir. So I joined choir, and my freshman year, we just worked on whatever songs. It was bass choir. We talked about Smash Bros. And we built forts. It wasn't real, and so we just did random stuff. But then we got into our first concert. And they packed the whole choir on the stage, and Alexa Wilson led us in Ukutula. And I finally felt it again, and I was like, this is sweet. I want to keep doing this.
That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Anybody else? Go ahead.
If choir suddenly stopped, it'd be a lot harder to have a connection with the director. Most of my life up until this point has been, at least social life, has been online, since I haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to be out. But despite that, it's still a lot harder to make a connection with, especially a teacher, when you can't go up to them and talk face to face.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
I would say being surrounded by people who are passionate about the same thing as I am. One of my biggest passions in life is music, and being surrounded by people that are also insanely passionate about that same thing is very inspiring. I like to write music on my own time, at home, and before I joined choir, it was I'd write it every now and again, but since joining choir, there's so many other people that sing all around me, and they're just so passionate about what they do, and it that kind of fills my passion up to So I just get to express what I love doing more because of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd miss that.
How about you, Mr. Connell? No more choir starting next week. How do you feel?
Not good. Yeah, so the first version of the pandemic hit my first year of teaching, and that first year was really, really hard. Like, first year of teaching, I thought I was going to be like immune to the first year of teaching. I was like, I'm going to walk in, it's my high school, I'm going to walk in and crush it. And it was really hard. That was not what happened. And like around Christmas, I was at school from like 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. like every day. I literally was like at school all the time trying to get things together and prepared. Over Christmas break, I was like, there's no way I can keep doing this. Like, I can't live like this. There's just no way. So I was like, I gotta make some changes. And that's when your podcast came out. And that's when I like started listening, and really like my college director focused a lot. We only read on solfege. And so I had that in my life, and that's what I wanted to share with the kids. And so I made some changes after Christmas break, and that like January to March stretch of my first year was amazing. Like that all of a sudden it felt like just we like did a 180. And we had our concert on March like 10th. And I left for our regional conference. We had our concert. Amazing job, everybody. I'll see you next week. I'm going to Spokane. And I got in my car and I left that night, and halfway through our conference, that's when the poop hit the fan. And so I came back and it was like, okay, we're going to be out for 2 weeks, and then just 2 more weeks and 2 more weeks, and that just like went to the end of the year. And so I just remember so missing those connections, like missing getting to check in with people and say, how's your weekend? And like, how's gymnastics? And how are the Broncos doing? Like not getting to check in with everybody was huge. And I think, I can't remember who was talking about it, but like not being able to recognize the gains that we were making. Like, we had come so far, and I was so proud of those kids, and to not be able to realize their full potential was also really hard. So I think I would miss the connections and miss getting to see what this group is like. What can we do? Like, what are we truly capable of?
Yeah, because I would imagine for you as a teacher, and I think it's good that they hear you kind of voice these things, because as a teacher, you're probably going to be at your proudest, so to speak, when they are at their potential, right? And I definitely my 2019-2020 school year, it was a nightmare, mostly because I, by that point in my teaching career, I'd just gotten about to year 15 or 16 as a choir teacher. And I was starting to feel like I was really good at my job. Like, my choirs are consistently good, and we're getting better every single year. And I've finally figured out this job after 15 or 16 years of trying to do it, right? And then have it all go away and turn into this thing that is not choir, which was our online classes that we had to take. And as you said, most of your experiences have been online, and you came, and this is Lincoln's comment, which really kind of resonated with me, because one of the reasons that we like choir is because we get to be together. And kind of like Allie's comment too, it's because I get to sing together. And then that school year, I had to say, okay guys, instead of doing those things you love, we're going to do all the things about choir that you hate. Now, I didn't say that way, but that's essentially what it ended up being, which is, okay, now we're going to meet online, and we're going to talk about music theory, and we're going to sight read and send in sight reading factory exercises, and we're going to meet and talk about where the breath marks are, and we're going to write stuff in our music, but we can't actually sing it together. So I'm like, okay, those are all the least fun parts about choir. They're necessary, but they're the least fun parts, and that's all we can actually do. And so then it ended up making me feel like, okay, now I'm not a good teacher anymore. Like, I am not a good teacher. In this scenario, I am not good at this.
Kids were wanting to quit.
Oh, and they did.
They did.
We lost so many kids that year from our program. They were just like, peace, I'm out. And I was like, I don't blame you. I miss you, but I don't blame you. I don't blame you for quitting. I kind of wish I could quit too, but I'm getting paid, so I kind of have to keep doing it. Like, it was absolutely terrible. And so I think this is a valuable conversation only because, and I've already knocked on wood, which means there will not be another pandemic. That's science. So I knocked on wood. And so, so the purpose of the conversation, though, is to hopefully bring you out of your retreat back into school on Monday, having reflected on the fact that this choir thing you're doing that you all voluntarily signed up to do, because none of you have to be here, correct? Like none of you need this class to graduate, correct? Okay, just making sure. I know in most schools it's like one fine arts and then you can graduate, right? So none of you have to be here. It's okay that I'm saying that, right? Okay. So you keep coming back, and so I want you to my goal for you on Monday when you come back is that we're not taking this for granted. That this is something that we really appreciate, that we get a chance to be a part of it. Does it mean it'll be easy and fun every single day for every minute? No, because in a lot of ways it should be frustrating sometimes because it's something we're working really hard at, but that it's worth it. That the work is worth it. And hopefully, but then, by the time you get a chance to do the next concert, or ideally even maybe in May when you do your last concert, you really feel like, man, we just killed it this year. And we really reached our potential. And then hopefully, for even further down the road, you're able to maintain relationships that you've built in this group. And that's my hope for you. Does anybody else have any last words for Mr. Connell or for that they have just been dying to say? Come on up, and then we'll wrap this up.
I just want to say that he's a backbone to this choir, even though we have our own little arms and limbs. He keeps us standing while we keep him support. It's kind of a give and take.
Yeah.
There are some times where we don't give as much effort because we can only give 20%, and Connell also can only give 20% or something. And there was this one specific time where he got upset at us because we weren't trying as hard as we could. And I gave him a little bag of M&Ms, peanut butter M&Ms, and I told him to get off his period. Oh my God. Wasn't it like the Christmas concert or something? But he was snapping at us when we were getting everything wrong, and it was on both of us, like him and the choir, because we were just getting frustrated because he was frustrated, and we fed on that. So we kind of just need to take a breath and let everything go. And so I'm glad I gave him the M&Ms.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Beth.
I have a poem I'd like to read. I didn't write it.
Are you gonna
look
cry?
really shocked. I'm going to try not to.
Okay.
It might seem. I don't think it's cheesy, but it's really not. It's originally, the song is a poem that was originally in German. This is the English translation, and it's called "To Music" on Die Musik. And this just sums up how I feel about music. You beautiful art, in how many gray hours where life's wild circles entangle me. You have kindled my heart with warm love. You transported me to a better world, raptured into a better world. Often a sigh has flowed from your harp, a sweet, holy chord from you. The heaven of better times opened up to me. You beautiful art, thank you for that. You beautiful art, thank you.
That's how in poetry clubs, that's what you do too. You snap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Go ahead. Come on down.
So in my middle school, all 3 years I took choir. And I feel like even just my last year, bass choir last year, I got the same amount of the same amount of worth, I think, from my last year in choir in high school and all 3 years of my middle school choir combined. Just because in middle school, the songs I wasn't as invested. It just felt like schoolwork. It just felt like more work to do. But then here in high school, it feels so much more, it has so much more of a sense of community and togetherness and growth, especially. I think, at least for me, I really don't see the change as much when I am part of the change. But, when the year was done, when we were moving through or looking back at old songs or concerts that we did and trying them again, and it was really amazing to see just how far we had come, how much better we have gotten just over the course of a few months. And just yesterday, after we were done and I went back home, I was really tired, but I was talking to my dad and I was like, it was really cool doing that, staying after school for a while, because I really got to see how cool everybody in this choir is and how nice and supportive everyone is. And I getting that sensation again of like coming together and doing more than you thought you could, creating something better than you thought it could be.
Yeah, I will, speaking of cool groups of people, I will share this too with you, and I will not edit this out because a lot of my students listen to my podcast. My kids are awesome too, and it's just a great group of kids. And I did discover though that they were a little bit salty with me this week for, in their words, I'm cheating on them with you guys this weekend, and partly because I had to miss school on Friday to come and be here. But one of the things that I just think is so cool about the way choirs, especially in high school, tend to form these really, really tight bonds that are let me put it this way, they're not about your teacher, but the teacher is at the center of them. You know what I mean? The bonds you make are with each other and with your teacher, and the teacher to you, and you to your neighbors and the people in the choir. But the teacher has to be the center of that, because that's where the culture in the classroom comes from to allow those connections to start to happen. I know that I have not every ensemble that I've ever been in. They don't always have that same type of connection, depending on what type of culture the group has. So as we kind of wrap this up, if it's okay, can we give Mr. Connell a round of applause? Thank you, as always, for sticking around to the end of an episode. I hope you enjoyed that. It was a little bit different, a little bit fresh. We, of course, love that trip, and so don't forget to go to the website and go to the clinician request form if you would like myself and Beth to come to your school and to your choir and do some work in person. We love the opportunity to do that, and of course it is coming more and more frequently now, so you'll want to go to that form and try to get me booked as soon as you possibly can. And of course you can do things to help. You can use the Choralosophy promo code at sightreadingfactory.com, mymusicfolders.com. You can use it at graphitepublishing.com and endeavormusicpublishing.com. And of course, like, share, leave ratings, engage in commentary, engage in conversation over at the Choralosophers Facebook page. All of those things help a lot. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week.